Hi, this is Munson with Munson Music. I'm going to talk about how you can play a song by the Rolling Stones called Paint It Black. And the recording is slightly sharp from what we're talking about. So if you wanted to actually play along with the recording, proceed at your own risk, but grab the tuners and tune them up just about 30 cents sharp to kind of match it to the Rolling Stones. And it starts out with this cool little intro lick that kind of comes back in our outro, where you could play 5th fret on the B string, and then open E, and then 7th fret on the B, and then open E, 8th fret on the B, and then open E, and then 10th fret on the B, and then open E, and then 8th fret on the B, open E, and then 7th fret on the B, and then open E, and then 5th fret on the B, and then open E, and then 5th fret on the B, open E, and then 4th fret on the B, open E, 5th fret on the B, open E, 7th fret on the B, open E, and then we go back to 5th fret on the B. Oh, but then there's this cool little tag lick, actually, where we go 2nd fret on the B string, and you could kind of do a double hammer on, where you kind of play the 2nd fret on the B, and then kind of hammer on into 4th fret and 5th fret on the B string, and then we play 5th fret on the B string and do a pull off from 5 to 4 to 2nd fret, and then hammer on back to 4. So it's the kind of this double hammer on idea from the 2, 4, 5. And then kind of a pull off, hammer on idea on the B. So I'm going to kind of play around with that. So all the way through that whole lick, you got kind of 5, 7, 8, 10, 8, 7, 5, 5, 4, 5, 7, 2, 4, 5, 5, 4, 2, 4. And then the chord that kind of backs up that lick would be an E minor chord. When we play E minor, first finger goes to the A string on the 2nd fret. 2nd finger on the D string 2nd fret, and if you strum all those together, that sounds an E minor chord, and it sounds really, really sad. Now, while you're on the E minor in general, actually, this can be kind of cool to take the pinky and add it in on the high E 3rd, or you could add it in on the high E 2nd fret, make it an E minor 9, or you could even kind of put 3rd finger on the B string 3rd, pinky on the high E string, and kind of make an E minor 7. And strumming wise through the tune, you may want to just kind of try and do downs actually, and kind of doing that with a little bit of muting actually can be kind of a cool sneaky way to kind of intro the tune, or even work it through the tune. Or one of my favorite strum patterns for a 4/4 like this is down, down, up, up, down, up. So we tried that a lot too. You'd have down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, down. And then from that intro, we'll be going into our main verse. And we start out on the E minor, and then we do another E minor, but then we go to a B7 chord, and we play B7. First finger goes to the D on the 1st fret, 2nd finger on the A string 2nd fret, 3rd finger on the G 2nd, and the pinky on the high E 2nd fret. And if you strum the A string to the high E string, that sounds a B7 chord, and it sounds really nasty. Now, randomly on the B7, you may also want to think about taking the 3rd finger and kind of laying it over the G, B, and E, and making that a B9 chord if you kind of dig on that sound. That's playing against the tune a little bit, but that can be a very, very cool sound. And then from there, we go back to our E minor, and then back to our B7. So you could kind of work the verses, kind of a down idea, kind of E minor, B7, B7. Or you can do the down, down, up, up, down. E minor, B7, B7. And then from that first verse, then we go into our first chorus. And we start out on the E minor, but then we go to a D major chord. We play D major. First finger goes to the G on the 2nd fret, 2nd finger on the high E 2nd fret, 3rd finger on the B string 3rd fret. And if you strum the D string to the high E string, that sounds a D major chord, and it sounds really, really happy. Now, while you're on Ds in general, it can be kind of cool to lift the 2nd finger and make that a D sus2. Or you could add in the pinky on the high E 3rd and make it a D suspended chord. And you kind of say some things around the D chord. And then from the D, we go to a G major chord. We play G major. First finger goes to the A on the 2nd fret, 2nd finger on the low E string 3rd fret, 3rd finger on the high E string 3rd fret. And if you strum all those together, that sounds a G major chord, and it sounds really happy. Now you may also want to think about putting the 3rd finger on the B string 3rd, pinky on the high E string 3rd. Kind of working that for your G major. That might make that change back to the D major a little bit easier. You have that 3rd finger to kind of hold on to. And then from there we go back to our E minor chord and another E minor. And then we kind of hit these chords at the beginning are kind of halved actually. If you're doing down, down, up, or down, down, up, up, down, you'd end up doing just that down, down, up on each of those chords, that D, G, D, D, and then we'd be back on our E minor with our whole pattern, and another E minor with the whole pattern. But then we kind of do that halving idea again, kind of E minor, down, up, D, down, up, G, down, up, D, down, up, then we go to an A major chord. We play A major. First finger goes to the D on the 2nd fret, second finger on the G string 2nd fret, and third finger on the B string 2nd fret. If you strum all those together, that sounds an A major chord, and it sounds really, really happy. Now on the A, it can be kind of cool to lift off the 3rd finger and make that an A suspended 2nd, or you can take the A shape and kind of add in the pinky on the B3rd and kind of say some things around the A chord. And then from the A, we go to a B7 chord. So through the chorus, actually, you could work just kind of that down idea, kind of 4 down on the E minor and the halving chords, E, G, D, E minor, E minor, E minor, D, G, D, and then the A, B7. Or if you're doing the down, down, up, down, up, you could work just the down, down, up on those chords to half them. Or if you dig on this, you could take the down, down, up, and do a down, down on the 1st chord, up, up, down, up on the 2nd chord to half it. So then the G would down, 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 up, down. So we tried our chorus with our strum pattern. We have the E minor, D, G, D, E minor, E minor, E minor, D, G, D, A, 7, and then from there, then we'd be going back into our verse part. Now, one other thing I think about adding to the song, though, is bass notes. And a lot of times on that very first down of the down, down, up, you could throw in a bass for the chord. So on the E minor, you'd have low E for the bass. On the B7, you'd have the A for the bass. On the D, you'd have the D for the bass. On the A, you'd have the A for the bass. So we tried that verse with kind of a bass down, up, down, up. We'd have E minor, low E, bass, down, up, down, up, E minor, B7 and A bass, B7 and A bass, E minor, low E bass, E minor, low E bass, B7 and A bass, B7 and A bass. Randomly, another way you could play your E minor, actually to make that change a little bit easier, is you could do 2nd on the A string, 3rd finger on the D string 2nd fret. So that makes it a little bit easier. You could hold on to the 2nd finger between the E minor and the B7 and kind of dig it on there. And then from there, then we'd be going into our chorus part. So we tried that with basses. We could kind of half those chords with a bass down up on each chord, kind of work it that way. Or if you kind of dig it on the down, down on the 1st chord, up, up, down, up on the 2nd chord, you could do a bass down and then hit the next chord on the up, down, up to kind of half it that way. So that would be kind of a cool idea too. So through that chorus with basses, we'd have the E minor, D, G, D, E minor, E minor, E minor, D, G, D, A, B7. And then from there, we'd be going into our next verse. Now, through the tune, you'll kind of hear this other rhythm that kind of happens that almost seems like kind of a bass up, 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 up. And if you want to really accent that, you can do kind of a bass up, kill it, up, kill it, up, kill it, up. So it's almost like a ska rhythm, actually. It's kind of bass up, 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 bass up, bass up, bass up, up. So we kind of dig on that. You can have the verse with the E minor, B7, B7, E minor, E minor, B7, B7. And you can almost kind of get that to work through the chorus part, with the halving chords being kind of a bass up, up. And this can be kind of weird, but chorus with the E minor, D, G, D, E minor, we'd be going back into our verse. Now, one other thing, if you want to make it a little bit heavier, actually, what can be kind of cool to make it heavier is to use some things called power chords. So instead of doing the E minor chord, you could play just the E and the A string, and that sounds like an E5 power chord. And what that means is you're playing an E note, and E, F, G, A, B is what we call the fifth of the chord. So it's just an E and a B note together. And it was a very rocky, kind of heavy way to do it. But you could also use an E5 by doing first finger on the A string 7th fret, third finger on the D string 9th fret, and kind of use that for the E. And then for the B5, you can take that and slide it down to 2nd fret on the A, third finger on the D string 4th fret, and kind of work just the A and the D strings for a B5. Or you can take the first finger and go low E string on the 7, third finger on the A string 9, and kind of work that for your B5. So if we tried our verse with kind of a power chord idea, you'd have a And then through the chorus part, you could take that same idea. We could start out on the E5, and then for the D, we could do a D5 power chord by doing first finger on the A 5th fret, third finger on the D string 7th fret, and kind of working the A and the D strings together. And then for the G, you could do a G5 power chord by doing first finger on the low E 3rd, third finger on the A string on the 5th, and kind of working that for your G5. And then we going back to the D, and then back to our E5, and another E5, and then D5, and then a G5, and then D5, and then we can go to an A5 for the A chord, doing first finger on the low E string 5th fret, third finger on the A string 7th fret for an A5, and then sliding that over to for the B5, using the A string B5. So we try our chorus with power chords. We have kind of E, D, G, D, E5, from there, then we'll be going into our verse part again. Now, you really could take any of these ideas that we're kind of talking about and kind of mix it up through the tune too, you know? Or if you know other licks around these chords too. So feel free to take this lesson and kind of run with it any way you wanted to. And then from that verse, then we'll be going into our last chorus. So we'll be back to kind of our E minor, D, G, D, E minor. Into our outro part, which is kind of like our verse. We just kind of keep on repeating, kind of E minor, E7, E minor, E7, E minor, E7. Or you may want to kind of bring back that lick from the beginning. Actually, you kind of hear that in the background now. Mixing that up a little bit. So kind of a double take on the 5-7. 5, 7, 8, 10, 8, 7, 5, 5, 4, 5, 7, 5, 4. 5, 7, 8, 10, 8, 7, 5, 5, 4, 5, 7, 5, 4. So you want to kind of bring that back too. But that's the basics of how you get strummed through Paint It Black by the Rolling Stones. So good luck!